I can't believe this is happening right now.
Oh,
You need to leave immediately, sir. You're causing a scene.
A waitress says to the billionaire, "Hi, sir. My mother had a ring just like yours." But what happened next will surprise you. What if a simple conversation in a small-town diner opened a secret that could change everything you thought you knew about family? What if a ring, just a ring, became the key to healing old hurts and finding hidden truths? This is a story about loss, love, and the ties that bind us even when we do not know it yet. James Thornton sat in the corner booth of Rosie's Diner, the kind of place where the coffee was strong, the floors were sticky, and the customers were too tired to care about the man in the nice coat. At 52, he was a billionaire whose name was on hospital wings and university buildings. But tonight, he was just a man drinking a cold cup of coffee, trying to escape the sad memories of his past. His wife, Claire, had been gone for 3 years now. A car accident took her laughter and left him with a house too big and a heart too broken. Since then, he had left big business meetings for quiet country roads, looking for comfort in places where his money meant nothing, and people's stories were honest and real. Rosie's Diner was one such place. Hidden off a quiet highway in upstate New York, it was a safe spot for truck drivers, travelers, and local people who knew each other's secrets, but never talked about them out loud. James liked it here. The chipped mugs, the faded wallpaper, the way the world seemed to slow down. He did not come for the food. He came for the short moments of connection, the small pieces of other people's lives that reminded him he was not the only one carrying pain. Across the diner, Emily Harper wiped down the counter. Her apron was stained with grease, and her brown eyes looked very tired. At 28, she was a single mother and an Army veteran. Her Army days were long over, replaced by long work shifts, and a toddler who called her Mama with a smile that made everything worth it. Her life was a hard balancing act. Bills were piling up, her apartment roof leaked, and her heart still hurt for the mother she had lost to drugs years ago. Emily did not talk about Mary much, but she carried her mother's memory in a small silver ring she wore on a chain around her neck. It was a ring carved with a pretty ivy pattern, a keepsake from a life that had slipped away. James noticed her before she spoke to him, not because she was very pretty. She was plain in a way that was beautiful because it was real, but because of the way she moved, like someone who had learned to keep going no matter how heavy the load. When she came to his booth to refill his coffee, her voice was soft but steady. "Hi, sir. My mother had a ring just like yours," she said, nodding at the silver band on his right hand. The words were simple, but they hit James like a truck. He froze, his fingers tightening around the mug. The ring was Claire's, a matching one to the ring he had given her when they were young and in love, before money and sadness had changed their lives. It was a simple band carved with ivy, a symbol of the love they promised would last forever. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. Emily paused, feeling the change in him. "Your ring," she said, touching the chain at her neck where her own ring hung. "It is just like my mom's. She used to wear it all the time. She said it was from someone special." James's heart pounded. It could not be just chance. Not the ring, not the ivy pattern, not the way her words brought back a memory he had buried deep. "Your mother," he said carefully. "What was her name?" "Mary," Emily replied, her voice softer. "Mary Harper." The name felt like a knife in his chest. Mary Harper, Claire's childhood friend, the one who had been there through their teen years, the one who drifted away when drugs took over her life. James had not thought of her in many years, but now her name pulled him back to a past he had tried to forget. James did not sleep that night. Back in his hotel room, he sat on the edge of the bed, Claire's ring heavy on his finger. Mary Harper. The name echoed in his mind, bringing back memories of a time when life was simpler, when he and Claire were just two kids in love, and Mary was the friend who shared their laughter and secrets. They had all grown up in the same small town, a place where everyone knew everyone and promises felt like they would last forever. Mary had been full of life once, with a laugh that could light up a room and a heart that loved deeply. But life had been cruel to her. Poverty, bad choice, and a fight with drugs that broke her family apart. James remembered the last time he had seen Mary, at his and Claire's wedding. She had been clean then, or so she said. Her smile tired but real as she hugged Claire and gave her a small box. Inside was the matching ring to Claire's, a silver band with the same ivy pattern, a gift to show their friendship would never break. "So you will always have me with you," Mary had said. Claire wore it every day until the accident, but Mary's life fell apart after that. Claire had tried to help with money, treatment centers, and endless phone calls, but drugs were a monster that would not let go. Mary disappeared, and Claire never stopped blaming herself for not doing more. When Claire died, James had buried that guilt with her, locking away the pain of their broken past. Now Emily's words had opened it all up again. The next evening, James returned to the diner. He was not sure why, only that he needed to see Emily again to understand the connection that felt too perfect to be an accident. The diner was busier tonight, the sound of talking filling the air, but Emily was there, moving between tables with the same quiet strength. When she saw him, she gave a small smile, but there was a question in her eyes. "Back again?" she asked, setting a fresh cup of coffee in front of him. "Could not stay away," James said, trying to sound light. "That ring you mentioned. It has been on my mind." Emily's hand went to the chain around her neck, her fingers touching the ring hidden under her shirt. "It is all I have left of her," she said quietly. "She was not perfect, but she was my mom." James nodded, his throat tight. "Tell me about her." Emily paused, then sat across from him during a short break in her shift. She told him about Mary, how she had been a singer once with a voice that could quiet a room, how she fought to stay clean for Emily, but always fell back to the bottle or worse, how Emily at 16 had come home to find her mother gone. The apartment empty except for the ring and a note that said, "I am sorry, Em. Keep this safe." Emily had been on her own ever since, fighting her way through life, joining the army to get away, only to come back to the same small town with a daughter of her own and dreams that felt farther away every day. James listened, his heart hurting with every word. He saw Claire's strength and Emily's courage in the way she spoke of love and loss the same way. But there was something else, a feeling he could not ignore. The ring was not just a memory. It was a clue, a piece of a puzzle he had not known he was solving. Over the next week, James became a regular at Rosie's. He would sit in the same booth, order the same coffee, and talk to Emily whenever her shift allowed. Their talks grew deeper, sharing stories of loss and survival. James told pieces of his life with Claire, how they built a fortune together but never escaped the shadow of her death, how he had given up everything except his grief. Emily, in turn, spoke of her daughter, Lily, a 3-year-old with her grandmother's eyes, and the hard job of raising her alone. But the ring was the thread that connected them. James could not let it go. He began to put the years together in his mind. Mary's disappearance, Claire's guilt, the silent years that followed. One night after the diner had emptied, he asked Emily the question that had been burning inside him since that first night. "Emily," he said, his voice steady but full of worry. "When was your mother born?" She frowned, surprised. 1968. "Why?" James's heart skipped. Mary was older than Claire by a year, but the numbers did not add up right. Emily was 28, born in 1997. Claire and James had married in 1995, and Claire had never mentioned a child. But Mary had been around then, coming and going. A memory came back, Claire crying after a late-night call from Mary, saying she had failed her, but would not explain why. "Emily," James said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did your mother ever talk about my wife?" "Claire Thornton?" Emily's eyes grew wide. "Claire?" "Yeah, she mentioned her sometimes, said they were best friends growing up, like sisters. Mom always got sad when she talked about her, like she had let her down." James's hands shook. He pulled out his phone and showed Emily a photo of Claire, young and smiling, her ring shining on her finger. Emily's breath stopped for a second. "That is her," she whispered. "That is the Claire my mom talked about." The pieces were coming together, but they did not fit yet. James needed answers, and he knew where to find them. He hired a private investigator, a quiet man who had worked for him before, and gave him everything he had. Mary's name, Emily's birth year, the ring. Within days, the investigator came back with a file that changed everything. Mary Harper had given birth to Emily in 1997, but the father listed on the birth certificate was a name James did not know, a man who had passed through Mary's life for a short time. But there was more. A letter hidden in county records, written by Mary to Claire in 1996. It was short but heartbreaking. "I am pregnant, Claire. It is his. I cannot tell him. He is married to you now. I am sorry." James read the letter again and again, his world spinning. Claire had known. She had known Mary was pregnant, known the child was his, and she had kept it secret from him. Why? To protect him? To protect their marriage? Or because Mary had begged her to keep it hidden? The truth hurt deeply, but it was also a gift. Emily was his daughter. James did not go to the diner the next day. He could not face Emily. Not yet, not with the truth burning inside him. He spent hours walking back and forth in his hotel room, the letter crumpled in his hand. He was angry at Claire for hiding it, at Mary for running away, at himself for not seeing the truth. But more than that, he was scared. Emily did not know. She had grown up without a father, without family, because of choices he never even knew about. When he finally returned to Rosie's, it was late, the diner almost empty. Emily was cleaning tables, her movements slower than usual, like she was carrying her own worries. When she saw him, her face lit up, then fell. "You okay?" she asked. James took a deep breath. "Emily, we need to talk." They sat in his booth, the ring on his finger and the one around her neck shining under the bright lights. He told her everything, Mary's letter, Claire's secret, the truth about her father. Emily listened, her face pale, her hands gripping the edge of the table. When he finished, tears ran down her cheeks, but her voice was steady. "You are saying you are my father?" she asked, the word sounding strange in her mouth. James nodded, his own eyes wet. "I did not know, Emily. I swear I did not know." For a moment, there was only heavy silence. Then Emily stood, her chair scraping the floor, and walked out the back door. James did not follow. He knew she needed time, just like he did. But the truth was out, and there was no going back. Days passed, then weeks. Emily did not quit her job, but she stayed away from James's booth. Her smiles were small and her words short. James kept coming, not to push her, but because he could not stay away. He had lost too much already, and now that he had found her, he would not let go unless she told him to. One evening, as the first snow of the season fell softly on the diner's windows, Emily walked to his table. She did not sit, but she held out the chain with her mother's ring. "I have been thinking," she said, "about Mom, about Claire, about you. I am angry, so angry at all of it, but I do not want to be anymore." James looked up, hope growing in his chest. "What do you want, Emily?" "I want to know you," she said simply. "Not the billionaire, not the man in the fancy coat, just you. And I want you to know Lily. She deserves a grandfather." It was not full forgiveness yet, but it was a beginning. Over the next month, James and Emily rebuilt what had been broken before it even started. He met Lily, a happy little girl with curly hair and giggles, and saw Claire in her smile and Mary in her eyes. He helped Emily with her bills, not as charity but as a father, and she let him, slowly opening her heart. They talked about Mary, about Claire, about the mistakes and the love that had shaped them all. James paid for a community center in Mary's name, a place for people fighting addiction to get help, to honor the woman who had given him a daughter he never knew he had. Emily started taking night classes, dreaming of a future beyond the diner, and James was there cheering her on. 1 year later, James sat at Rosie's diner, but this time he was not alone. Emily was across from him, Lily on her lap, coloring a picture of a house with a big tree out front. The rings, his and Emily's, still shone, symbols of a past that had hurt but also healed. The diner was the same, but they were different, bound by a truth that had almost broken them but instead gave them a family. As Lily giggled and Emily smiled, James felt something he had not felt in years. Peace. The money he had chased, the sadness he had carried, the secrets that had defined him. They were all part of him, but they were not all of him. The real treasure was here, in the laughter of a little girl, in the strength of a daughter he had found, in the courage to start again. And as the jukebox played a soft song, James knew this was what Claire would have wanted. Not a life of regret, but one of healing, of love, stitched back together. One diner conversation at a time.